do less with more. No, do more with less.
Do more with less.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your timely source of Power Platform news and updates with your host, Ulrikke, that's me, and
Nick Dolman, that's me.
Great. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing well, thanks. Bit of a snowy day here in Ottawa. It's not balmy, super warm temperatures and tropics like Norway right now.
Oh yeah, the sun really came out this weekend, so I'm all tanned up and ready for Easter holidays. All right, so first we're going to kick off with our pick of the weekly. And
we
Nick,
Yeah, we should specify when we talk about the weekly, we're talking about the newsletter, the Power Platform Weekly, which we both read religiously when it comes out Monday mornings, and selfishly see if some of the content that we've produced actually shows up in the list, like I'm sure many of you do.
Oh yeah, it's first scroll to look for your name, scan it for your name, and then you read the other stuff. Definitely.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know how MVPs are. It's all about, prima donnas and whatnot.
Yeah, and very good that you mentioned that, Nick, because the first item on our pick of the newsly is something that you created, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this was a video I did last week, but actually it was it came from one of our product managers. Well, he wrote a blog. One of the product managers, Niraj. He's on the team. I work with Niraj. He's a great guy. Shout out to Niraj for the amazing work that you and your team does. And they produced a new feature for Visual Studio Code that allows you for Power Pages to create web pages, page templates, web files, and content snippets. And I'd like to think that I was responsible for the content snippets, because when they first showed me this feature, I said, you're going to be able to create content snippets too, right? These are important. So this is great because you can check out, I did a video of going through this, creating a web page completely within Visual Studio Code. We'll put that in the show notes. You can check that out. And just also want to reiterate that this is the Power Platform Boost podcast. This is not a new incarnation of the Refresh the Cache podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Good that you mentioned that. It's not only about Power Pages stuff. And actually the next item on the list is the modern controls that are coming for Canvas apps. So to prove our point, we do talk about other stuff than Power Pages. Because in February, there was an announcement that there were new modern controls coming to model-driven apps. And now it has been announced that these are also coming to Canvas apps. So they are built on the Fluent UI design system. They're built for performance. They're accessible by default and WCAG 2.1 compliant, and already support the theming that is coming later. And that is actually one of the things that I think is more news in terms of what I do each day, as a front-end developer and as a designer. There's a new theming system coming. Can't wait to see what that's all about. And I hope that, fingers crossed, that is something that you can do from environment, high level on environment perspective, and not just by, one app. So really, fingers crossed for something like that. And this preview feature is available for you to turn on and enable in your app settings today. So go check it out.
Yeah, I actually went and checked in my Canadian tenant and it was there. I could turn it on. So exciting stuff. So it should be available for everybody. So the other interesting news that came out this week, and this wasn't in the Power Platform Weekly or any of the other newsletters, but this was in like mainstream news, and in an open letter, the Future of Life Institute called for a 6-month pause on developing more powerful AI systems than GPT-4. See, remember the last episode? I told you we were going to be talking about GTP 5 and 6 in the next episode. And yeah, here we are. So
we can't. They want to put a pin in it.
Yeah. So we have like notable signatories like Elon Musk. I don't know if you heard of Elon Musk. He invented the electric car or something like that. And Steve Wozniak, who built the original Apple computer way back when. Now they claim they're worried about the risk to society and the transformative technology that, AI and these tools will bring. So I was like, okay, well, I wasn't sure. So what I ended up doing is I asked the Bing AI chat if we should be worried. And Bing responded, don't worry about AI taking over the world. If it does, it will be because we told it to.
Is that for real? I hope it's a joke. Fingers crossed it's a joke. It's not April Fool's.
No, wait till next year. We're going to have an April Fool's episode then. Just forewarning.
Yeah.
And this is the only warning you'll get.
Please warn me in advance. I'm terrible with those April Fool's Day jokes. Don't get them. And another blog post that we wanted to shout out is one by David Wyatt. He shares how to create a game in Canvas apps in his new blog post called Flappy App. Why and how to make a game in Power Apps. And he talks you through the basics of how to create an app. It's infinite scrolling and it's collision detection and it's timers. And that is the 3 most important things when you're creating a game. And actually just wanted to shout out to something we did a couple of years ago at Arctic Cloud Developer Challenge, the hackathon that we mentioned a couple of times already in this podcast, where we actually created kind of a Pokemon Go Viking version, where you could actually kill a Viking by throwing a pointy ball at the Viking. So that's really cool. I'll share some the links to that as well in the show notes, because that is really cool. And I hope to see a lot of games popping up in the next couple of weeks. And if you have created a game, please let us know and we'll share links to that as well, because that is so cool. Yeah,
it's interesting to talk about games, and and I'm not going to go too far off the beaten path here, but I actually over the weekend watched the new Tetris movie. It's on Apple TV. And it's a story on how Tetris was not so much a little bit how it was developed, but also how the intrigue, because it was at that time created in the Soviet Union and of course, communist society, the creators weren't allowed to profit off of these things, and how the Western world got the rights and everything like that. So
that's crazy.
It is. Wow. It's definitely, you should check out that movie. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, and actually, when I was younger, I had, I think, about 3 years where I played Tetris and I actually dreamt Tetris. I was sleeping, still playing.
That's actually what they call it. If you read the Wikipedia article on Tetris, they call that the Tetris effect, about how it affects your brains and thinking and things like that. So, and again, I'm going off the beaten track here, but you can actually go to Tetris.com and they actually have, you can actually play Tetris online directly from their website. So
I can't get into it again. I will never be able. No. Then we can shut this podcast down. It would take over my life.
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah, so don't go play Tetris if you have lots of work to do. And speaking of game releases, just so you know, by mid-May, when the next Legend of Zelda comes out, then I'm going to be MIA for a couple weeks, probably. All right, we've got to get back to the news.
Yeah, news.
All right. So a couple, we talk about the Power Platform Weekly and the Power Platform Developer Weekly are a couple newsletters that we read, like I said, religiously every week when they come out. A lot of great articles. But also this week, we saw a couple new community newsletters dedicated to specific aspects of the Power Platform. So the one was our friend Megan Walker, and I was told I did pronounce her name right. I got it. Yeah, I'm going to screw it up again, just letting you know. And she's come out with a newsletter specifically about Dynamics 365 marketing. And some of, of course, Megan has a lot of her own stuff, but she also pulls in other people from our community as well. There's a lot of cool things happening with Dynamics 365 marketing. I can spell it. I know the portal is written in Angular, and I know the data model is very interesting. But beyond that, I'm not an expert in this. So it's good that we do have our experts in our community. And the fact that there's this newsletter out allows you, if you're into this, you can actually get a lot of great information consolidated. Another newsletter, and again, this is not Refresh the Cache, but we are going to talk about Power Pages, is Tino Rab. And Tino, if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, I apologize. And I should probably go on LinkedIn and get the proper pronunciation. But he's come out with a newsletter called Power Pages and Beyond, and it looks like he's already 2 or 3 newsletters in. And again, this is a great place to consolidate all the news that's coming up with Power Pages. As people probably know, Ulrikke and I, we work a lot in Power Pages, and I'm just amazed. And of course, I'm well aware of all the new features coming out because they do require corresponding documentation, but it's just amazing, the new features, what's news coming out, and the community that's being involved. I'm seeing a lot more blog posts, videos, and different things around Power Pages. So another awesome newsletter. So definitely we're going to have that link in the show notes. So check out those new newsletters out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's not just self-promotion. They do pick stuff from others and just us in there, luckily.
Yes.
Yeah. And the last item on our news list this week is from Priyesh Wang. I'm sorry if I butchered that as well. He wrote an article about mitigating flow to latest Microsoft Dataverse connector. And this is something we actually talked about a little bit before we record today. It's a blog post that tell you how to use out-of-the-box functionality. You use the flow checker actually does the work for you, but it's a blog post that put emphasis and focus on something that we all should know about. So, and it's kudos for picking that up. If you have a flow that uses that legacy Dataverse connector, you simply open up the flow and run the checker. It will tell you you're using the legacy connector. It will give you a link to a mitigation assistant that will create a copy of your flow with the updated connector for you to test before you turn it on and use it in production. So it's kudos for making a blog post about something that we all should know about. And it's a way to put some emphasis on it and focus on it. So great work. Thank you. Now, it's only a matter of remembering where you put all those flows with those legacy connectors.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, it is something we talked about a little bit before the recording as well. Microsoft Docs, a lot of this information is kind of buried in Docs, but again, it's strictly product or feature documentation. What I like about the community posts and why I actually still blog is putting these pieces together and applying them to sort of real world projects and situations. And even something as simple as like this could have missed my radar. And if I'm on a project and there's some legacy connectors, it's kind of like digging through and finding them. It's like, this is a great tip. So if you're an aspiring MVP or an aspiring, you think your community content's not good enough or it's too simple, no, definitely. Even if it's like a simple tip, put it out there. Because if you had that question, chances are a whole bunch of other people did as well. So definitely, that's really cool that we like, this is something that, yeah, it's small, but it is going to be pretty impactful.
Agree.
So what we're going to be doing is, no, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. So what we're going to be chatting about is it is called the Microsoft Business Application Launch Event. So we're going to go through this and then we'll be talking about that in detail. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to somebody who, speaking of coming up through the community and starting out small, starting out doing a few blog posts, way back a few years ago, sent me a few emails with some questions. We did a bit of back and forth. This particular person figured out the solution. I encouraged her to blog about it, and she did. And she did some presentations, did some stuff for Scottish Summit, a few other places. And guess what? She is now going to the show. So our very own co-host, Ulrikke Akebek, is going to be presenting 2 sessions at the Microsoft Power Platform Conference in Las Vegas, right up there with Celine Dion and all the other superstars, right up there in the big lights. So congratulations, my friend. I am very proud of what you've accomplished and really excited to be able to see your sessions at the Microsoft Power Platform Conference this fall.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. And I am so grateful for all the things that you've done for me over the years and, picking me up. That's your community superpower. Just raise people up. And I really appreciate that. And this is so big. I have to pinch my arm. And I see, to get 1 session accepted for this, it's big enough. I have 2, not sure what happened. But that is crazy. And I'm so grateful. And I'm going to be talking about Power Pages, of course, and styling and ALM and all the things that I'm so passionate about. And I can't wait. I'm terrified and I'm so excited at the same time. Counting on you sitting in the audience so I can look at you when I freak out and have you support me.
Definitely. I will be there one way or the other for sure. All right. So we just watched the Microsoft Business Applications launch event.
Yes.
It was worldwide stream of all the new stuff. And they mentioned a few points. It seems every 5 seconds there was something new coming out, which I think a lot of it was already announced. It was announced a couple of weeks ago at the Copilot thing, but there was more than just Copilot stuff as well. And it interesting how it started off with Charles Lamanna going on and talking about the last 40 years, software really hasn't changed. Great way to kind of launch everything like that, and talked about AI and Copilot being the heart of everything. And we spoke earlier about the fact that there's, Elon Musk and crew are trying to kind of shut down, slow down. But this event really proves that the genie is out of the bottle, and this is happening whether the world is ready for it or not. And dove right into stuff, talking about the Dynamics 365. Was there anything that really popped out for you there?
Oh, yeah. So the Microsoft Digital Contact Center platform is not something that I've picked up on, actually. So completely honest that it was a pleasant surprise. And I love seeing that it plays together. So it's better together. It's that narrative. We've heard it so many times. It was very concrete. These applications together make a modern contact center platform. And it's something I really like, and I really buy into that. The Dynamics 365. We've had AI for a while. It's the Copilot idea is on the right side panel, and it's going to be your assistant. It's going to be your colleague as you work in your CRM and your ERP systems, and making sales and marketing, customer service all come together, and also the field service. I really like seeing the AI being brought into those things as well. A little disappointed that there was no AI news for Power Pages, of course. Not that I saw. Did you pick up on anything?
Not on AI specifically. That's not to say something might come in the future. They did announce a couple of things though that were in the release notes and about Power Pages specifically, though, specifically things that I'm excited about already, the cloud flows, being able to call cloud flows directly within Power Pages. I wrote a blog post maybe a year or two ago, or probably even longer, on how to launch flows from Power Pages, but there's a lot of security issues involved in that. And even now, if you want to resolve that, you have to go through the API management and things like that to make that secure. This will be a secure way that you can call cloud flows and then use the flows to talk to other services, which would be really cool. So think of something like trying to calculate tax or shipping on something, and you can call a third-party service directly from a Power Pages page and have that information come back to you without a lot of heavy coding and development that you would have to do now to achieve the same thing. So
what does that mean? Do you see low coders or citizen developers being able to config their way into triggering a flow from something or an action or a button in Power Pages? Is that why you see this accessible?
Maybe not on day one, but that will come very quickly.
Yeah.
At this point,
for me, you've been able to trigger workflows for so long. Dynamics 365, old school legacy in my world workflows. So for Power Pages to suddenly have this ability to trigger Cloudflow is like, yeah, sure, that's great, but why don't we already have that? I don't mean to be critical, but it's something that seems from the outside as a natural evolvement of what we already have today. We can connect it to actions and lists and forms and buttons and all that other stuff. So I'm really eager to see the low code perspective on that feature because it's supposed to be a low code application or product.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, you're right. It will come. Like, I mean, Power Automate is tactically a low code tool. So there's all that. What I think the thing here that's interesting is this information that the flow will spit back to your Power Pages site. Like we could today, if we really wanted to, update a Dataverse column from your Power Page site, which will trigger a flow, which could do a bunch of things, but this is going to get the information back. So how it's going to affect the maker, it's going to give the maker, I think, some more tools in the toolbox to do things that they might have had to, get a developer to build like a companion app or something like that before. But you're absolutely right.
Something that is not supported, right? Because that's what we've been doing with your solution. Not in production. I wouldn't dare. I would never use it in production. Wink, wink. But it's a workaround, and that is the nature of development as well. If there is a way to work around it, then we will find it and we will use it. And so this is probably just catching up to what we've been doing for a while, and to enable low coders to be able to do that. And that is exactly the thing that's missing, right? So whenever I've had a project with Power Pages that we wanted to trigger something, and that goes for the workflow as well, with the cache refresh only triggering every 15 minutes, how do you know that you've been successful? Where is that feedback back to the end user that, yes, this trigger that you clicked this button or whatever has triggered something and it was successful or not, going back? And that's the same thing goes with Power Apps, Canvas apps and Flow as well. That ability to trigger flows from your Canvas app and get that value returned from the flow. That is the key to that feature in my mind. So I'm so excited to see this. And then, of course, being very excited about ALM, the simplified ALM through solutions. Oh my God. Now this is turning into refresh the cache. I'm sorry, guys, but this is so important. Finally, Power Pages will be solution aware. We can put all our configuration of Power Pages in solutions, and we can move them through to test and production environment as we can with all the other stuff in Dataverse. Yep. So this is an enabler of so many crucial, important things. And this is one of the topics I'm talking about at Microsoft Power Platform Conference in Vegas as well. This is one of my talks is on low code ALM for Power Pages specifically, but also we're going to touch on ALM for Power Platform with the new Power Platform pipelines as well. So I see these two in combination, and I can't wait to see how this is going to work.
Not only for doing projects, but even to expand the community as well. Like Microsoft has a set of templates. But now if, let's say, someone in the community decides to build an event Power Pages template, they'll be able to do that, package it as a solution and throw that up on GitHub. And then you'll be able to grab it, take that solution and load it on your own system. And boom, then you have, and if it's an unmanaged solution, then you have a template that you can build from. So this just opens up a ton of possibilities. Like, not to say you can't do it now by using the Pack CLI and downloading all that portal metadata and everything. But there's a lot of steps that it'd be a lot harder to get to that point where you can, distribute, an actual Power Pages solution to a community out there without going through a lot of headache and steps and things like that.
Absolutely. Yes. Definitely. That's something we've been asking for a while. And so many people have created so many cool things. And this is also building upon the idea of code components and reusable content and those things that we've had the community and our customers ask for a while. And it's building on that same idea that we are a community, we contribute and we create things together. And one person's solution is, if you have another to build upon that, then it's only getting better. And that open source idea, we all contribute into the code. I really like that. So my mind goes crazy. I have so many ideas what we can use this for going forward. And I see, the template shopping experience where you can go upload and download and so many cool things. And on the topic of coping over code and components, I saw that for Power BI, there's a PowerPoint integration. I love that.
Yes.
You can just grab a Power BI report and embed it into PowerPoint. And you will have all the automation. You will have being able to slice and dice and filter it. All the interactivity in the report will still be there. And it will just update the data whenever you update the PowerPoint. And the use case is obvious, and so many people do this every day and every week for reporting. You would have this huge PowerPoint presentation. You would have to, I don't know how you would, but you would probably just take a snapshot of the Power BI report and you would put it in there. And it's a manual task that you no longer have to do. And it's AI driven, isn't it?
It is.
AI capabilities, right?
Yeah, I saw that as well. That was on one of the bonus content, I believe, that they showed that off. And what's cool about that is,
absolutely.
Yeah, so check that out. I think that was under the Power Apps section or Power Platform section.
Low code, exactly.
Yeah, low code. Yeah, and this is cool because, in my job, that is something we do every month is we compile the statistics of documentation views, which is all done in Power BI. Don't think I'm giving away any state secrets about that. But I know that there is some cycles that are spent compiling this information, putting it together. If we can get to a point where we can build our decks that pull to the same report immediately, plus some other insights too, because the other cool thing I saw was you could generate, a text summary of this data. Here are the following things that are happening. Like, I'm sure that there are folks out there that are putting together these reports and they're looking at the data. So it's one thing to pull the reports and get them all refreshed and screenshot them and export them or whatever and plop them into a PowerPoint. And then they got to go through and try to find some smart things to say to put that in their presentation. So with the AI, they can actually go through that. And chances are it's going to pick out stuff that's not necessarily that obvious. So that's going to be the really cool thing about these tools is looking, and I mean, this is across the whole Power Platform as well, right? Like we saw these in customer service, like we talked about the call centers and pulling the AI information. I've implemented systems in large call centers that replaced old Visual Basic tools that were tied to SQL, and they had bare minimum customer information. I think we've all been on the phone with a customer support agent before, and let me look it up in this system, or let me transfer you to somebody. This to me is just going to make you as a customer, your experience dealing, because no one likes to call a call center, right? Like, oh shit, I got to call my bank for this.
If you have worked at a call center, some do like to call the call center. That's probably the only conversation they have that day. You do never get rid of them. But then apart from those people, you're right. And actually, fair enough. I saw as well, you can enable the Q&A and you can ask AI questions about the data. And I love that as well, because that's ChatGPT on top and it's natural language. And the narrative, actually, that's been in Power BI for a while. You have that ability to make Power BI create a narrative around your data and explain the report to you. That has been there for quite a while. So again, it just proves that we've had AI in Power Platform for a while. We just didn't think about it. We didn't recognize it as AI. We just saw it as another enabler, another capability, another feature. It was never really that emphasis on AI as it is now. And that is probably what Ryan Cunningham means when he say from autopilot to copilot as well. It's coming out of the shadows into our hands and is going to be, a partner for us each day as we work.
Yeah. And and that goes beyond Power BI as well, because you'll be able to build your own Power Apps and add they call the Maker Copilot to that. Now, I talked about that a little bit last week, playing, with last week or 2 weeks ago when we had our last episode. But I think for me, when I'm actually implementing, and in the past, when I've implemented systems and did end user training, we spent a lot of time on how to use the search capability, how to use advanced find, how to use the different the Dataverse searching capabilities to go through your data to find certain things. Because that's always the question, like, how do I find out about this? How do I find out about that in your data? And I've heard the expression, maybe you've heard it before, data rich, but information poor. And now with these AI tools, if I can just natural language ask, show me all the memberships that are going to be renewing in the next 2 months that have not renewed yet. And by asking the Maker Copilot that's going to be in the app that I create, then those users be able to find out that information immediately and get a list and be able to take action on that proactively. And that's transformative.
Absolutely. And to have all that data in context as well. So there's one thing to go to ChatGPT and ask it a lot of questions, but you have to give it that information context for it to be able to answer you correctly. And you couldn't possibly give it that kind of information. And so that brings us to the virtual agent, Power Virtual Agent, where you could, with 2 clicks of a button, it seems from the video and from my experience as well, connect it to any website or any source of information, and it will give you answers based on that. And that is something that we've created for a while. I mean, we've created Power Virtual Agents to Q&A sites that have all the questions and answers from call centers again. And that is probably I think at least one of the widest use cases of PVA as well. It's answering those questions that your customer workers, service workers answer every day. So what do you think about that, Power Virtual Agent?
That is going to finally make, and not that I was ever critical about Power Virtual Agents before, but I know that having set those up before, man, it's a lot of work to configure a Power Virtual Agent, to add all those topics, add all those entities, and put that information in there to get it to a point where it's actually going to be, fairly usable beyond, asking it what the weather is and tying it to a service kind of thing, right? So this is where, hey, if I can set the Power Virtual Agents, and instead of me trying to figure out how I'm going to organize all that information, I just point it to, here's my databases, here's my tenant, you go figure it out, you create all those entities and topics. And and I haven't tried this, but that's my impression of the process. It's just going to make the Power Virtual Agent, the chatbot, so much more powerful, because now the information's being fed into it using AI. So this is a game changer for PVA. It's going to be definitely worth folks taking a second look at that if they've looked at it before and found it clunky.
Yeah, and I do presentations on low code and Power Platform a lot. And whenever I'm presenting on Power Virtual Agent, I always pause to say that if you don't realize how much work it is to create a good chatbot, then this product will be way too easy for you. You should do the work beforehand. So in my opinion, this is just me, the product has been too easy to use. It's been too easy to create a chatbot without having to do all the work that it requires for that chatbot to be a good one in advance. Now, that product has transformed in my head to one of the most important in the platform, because now it's finally there where you don't have to do all that work in advance. It is. So now it's finally something that I can talk about and talk to. And I can't wait for my next Power Virtual Agent implementation, actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, the thing is, I've not had a lot of experience in Dynamics F&O or supply chain management. Have you done any of Have you touched that in your projects at all through your career?
No, not at all, actually. But I saw something that I thought was curious today. Something about the field service app being having, I'm not sure if that's AI driven, but there was some capabilities that would create better contrast in an app when it was ever exposed to bright sunlight, and bigger text and buttons if you're wearing gloves, for instance, that kind of thing. And I really love seeing that user experience person as I am.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like, I think we saw that at the, to talk about the hackathon, the ACDC, it was a team there that built a lot of Canvas apps on top of Dynamics 365 F&O. And to me, sometimes you see the conversation come up on social media is like, what's better, a model-driven app or a Canvas app, or which one should you choose? And those kind of questions drive me nuts, because to me, it's like a model-driven app is for that admin, data-driven, very straightforward. Canvas apps are great for those kind of single task or very minimal task type things. So it's not so much a solution, it's more of an application base. So I saw that as well. And I thought, this is great, because this is to me is the true power of a Canvas app. It's supplementing a bigger system like Dynamics 365 F&O, because you'll have people that, and I've worked years ago as a system administrator where we had a warehouse, and seeing some of these, these tools now about using a phone to do your order picking and things like that, where before, like they'd had to print out sheets and they'd have to go and tick them off with a pen, and they'd have to find where everything is. And now if it's just, using your phone to follow where it is and follow these instructions, is just going to make, fulfillment centers so much quicker as well. It's really neat. The other thing with Canvas apps that I really liked was, I don't know if you saw this, was the preview ability that you could pick. What is this going to look like on an Apple? What is this going to look like on an iPad or an Android phone?
Yeah, it's in my notes as well. I really like seeing that. We've had it in marketing for a while as well. I'm not sure what it's called. It's a third-party solution within Dynamics 365 Marketing, where you could test it for different devices and different screen sizes, and it would show you what the email would look like in the different phones and different. So this is really, really cool. I like this. It's a good tool.
The other thing I did see, like I said, I'm not a Dynamics 365 expert, but they were talking about the project. I think it might have been in HR or whatever, where they're putting together the quote for a project, and it would take data and work items, time tracking from previous projects to scope out the next project, which I found very interesting, coming from professional services firms, where it always seems that every time there's a new project being proposed, we're always reevaluating, re-estimating, trying to figure out how much is this going to take. And it's sort of like, hey, like, how many of these projects have we done in the past? How long did it take? Is there a way we can not sort of, I don't want to say copy and paste the proposal, but, get a little bit more smarter about, figuring out what the scoping is for these projects. And this looks like these tools were built in using AI to take a look at that data and be able to put together what a particular project would take in terms of resources and time and things like that. Now, of course, you turn it over to the sales guys, and they're going to try to, probably cut it down and, make it so it's going to be sellable, and we'll figure it out later. I've seen those situations in the past, but still, these are the type of technologies that are just going to make these tools just so much better.
Yeah. It was really, cool. I was excited about the news that they shared, and I really like this event because this was 1 hour. It gives you all the highlights, all the stuff that you should know about, puts things on your radar to keep digging into, and that holistic narrative around it. So again, for me, I'm presenting on Power Platform every week. This also gives me a refresher on the narrative and what's important and what to focus on and where the gold is at. And then, do less with more. No, do more with less.
Do more with less.
And empower everyone. I mean, it's a good story. It's a good story.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Speaking of events coming up, the European Power Platform Conference is coming up in June, and we have a special 10% off code to share So if you haven't registered yet, when you register, you can choose the word boost, BOOST, and that will get you 10% off. And from what we understand, the 3-day tickets have sold out, but there's still lots of 2-day tickets. So the 3-day tickets included those pre-day tutorials. And so now we have the 2-day tickets available. So you'll still get tons of great content there. So hopefully we'll see you in Dublin. And then the other event that's coming up in a few weeks, actually, wow, it's sneaking up on me, is the Iberian Summit. And that's in Portugal. And that's, I think, April 28th and 29th. I'm doing a pre-day workshop on, of course, Power Pages. But if you don't know anything about Power Pages and you want to know everything I know, I will try to tell you as much as I know in a 1-day span. And there's a lot of hands-on labs, and it's a lot of fun. We'll make it entertaining, and we'll make sure that you can walk out of there very confident to work on your Power Pages projects. And then, of course, on the Saturday, there's a whole bunch of great sessions going on. And yeah, so definitely check that out if you happen to be in the area, or you want to take a trip to Portugal on the south there. And yeah, it gets, it's not Norway sun, but I'm sure it's pretty good.
Oh, Portugal is so beautiful this time of year. So if you want to get sneak peek into the summer, then that's really the place to be. Thank you so much for listening to Power Platform Boost podcast this week with your hosts, Ulrikke Åkerbeck and Nick Dolman. Please follow us on all social media platforms except TikTok, because Nick can't dance, or can he?
He can't.
Or email us at hello@powerplatformboost.com. See you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news.